The silent corridor. The corridor was silent, too silent. Alex Ward sat in his wheelchair near the window of the medical bay. Staring at the endless darkness of space, he had been here for months, stuck on this faraway space station after the battle. That took his legs. The doctors told him he might never walk again. Every day felt the same morning light from the station's artificial sun. Nurses passing by without looking. The quiet hum of life support machines. He hated the silence. It made him remember the battlefield. The smell of smoke, the sound of explosions, the pain that never left that night. As the lights dimmed to mimic sunset, Alex heard something strange at first. He thought it was the wind, but there was no wind in space. It was soft, almost like someone breathing near his ear, but it carried a rhythm. A whisper, faint but clear. He froze, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. No one was standing near him, no nurse, no patient. The voice spoke again, but the words were unclear. Like they were wrapped in fog, Alex's heart pounded. He turned his wheelchair toward the door, looking down the long corridor. The far end was darker than it should be. Shadows moving like they had their own life. His throat went dry. He knew. That part of the station, no patients were allowed there. Not even most of the crew. They called it the restricted wing. It was where old cargo and strange artifacts from alien worlds were stored. Things that made most people uneasy. The whisper came again, stronger this time. It said his name. Alex felt the hair on his arms rise. He had heard his name shouted by commanders, cursed by enemies, whispered by friends, but this voice was different. It was gentle, almost kind, but it carried weight, like it had traveled a long way just to reach him. He wheeled himself closer to the door. The corridor outside stretched like a tunnel, its metal walls reflecting dim blue light from the floor. Panels. He knew he shouldn't go out, Tiff. A nurse caught him. They would send him back, but something deep inside told him that if he stayed, he would regret it forever. As he rolled forward, the sound grew sharper. It wasn't just a voice anymore. It was like a melody hidden in the words. It felt alive, as if the voice itself was breathing. He passed the medical bay doors and moved. Into the empty hallway. The air was cooler here, and a faint smell of ozone drifted through. His wheels made a soft echo with each turn, the sound bouncing off the metal walls. Halfway down the corridor, he thought he saw movement. A shadow darted across the floor, quick and low. Alex stopped. Listening hard, the whisper came again, right after the shadow moved. It was clearer now. Still soft, but with urgency. It didn't sound human, but it didn't sound threatening either. He continued forward until he reached the point where the light faded into darkness. Here, the walls were older, scratched and marked from years of wear. A small flicker of light came from a vent above, casting strange shapes on the floor. That's when he noticed something small moving just ahead. It was no bigger than a cat, its shape blurred in the dim light, but its eyes glowed like tiny stars, blue and gold, bright and full of life. Alex felt his chest tighten. The creature stepped into the light, revealing shimmering scales. It looked at him without fear, its gaze steady. Then, in the quietest voice yet, it spoke. Alex. He blinked, thinking he imagined it, but the creature tilted its head and spoke again. The voice was exactly what he had been hearing all along, the whisper in the dark. He didn't know how it knew his name or why it was here. All he knew was that the silence of the corridor was gone, and nothing about his life was going to be the same again. Asterisk, the tiny visitor Lix stared at the little creature in front of him. Its body shimmered in the faint light, every scale catching the glow of the corridor lamps. It was small, barely reaching his knees, even if he stood, but it carried an air of something ancient. Its wings were folded neatly against its back, thin and delicate like fine silk, yet strong enough to shimmer with a faint golden light. The eyes? Those eyes were alive. Deep pools of blue and gold that seemed to look straight into his thoughts. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Alex's heart beat faster. Not out of fear, but out of something he couldn't explain. The dragon, if that's what it was, took one slow step forward, its claws clicking softly against the metal floor. Alex's fingers tightened on his wheelchair's armrests, unsure whether to move closer or stay still. Then, the creature opened. Its mouth, a faint whisper slipped out, almost musical, "Not safe." It said in a voice that trembled like wind through leaves. Alex leaned forward, his mind racing. "Not safe. What do you mean?" he asked quietly, as if speaking too loudly might break the moment. The creature's head tilted, and its tail swished once against the floor. "They coming," it said. The words rough, but clear enough to send a shiver through Alex's body. Before he could ask who they were, a faint tremor shook the corridor. It was subtle at first, like the station had sighed, but then the lights flickered. The creature's wings twitched. And it took another step closer to Alex, as if seeking protection. Alex couldn't understand why this small thing had chosen him. He was broken, stuck in a wheelchair, unable to run, unable to fight. But the way the creature looked at him, it was like it didn't see weakness. It saw something else. Something Alex didn't know he had. The tremor faded, and for a moment, the station was quiet again. Then a distant alarm wailed, soft at first, then louder, echoing down the corridor. Red light flashed on the walls, bathing everything in a warning glow. Alex felt his stomach twist. He had been in battle before, and he knew what that sound meant. Something was wrong, dangerously wrong. The creature flinched at the sound, but didn't run. Instead, it stepped right up to the footrest of Alex's wheelchair and placed one small clawed hand on the metal. Its touch was warm, almost like it was alive with energy. The whisper returned, but now it was inside his head instead of his ears. "Help me." "Help you," it said. Alex gasped, glancing around to see if anyone else could hear it, but the hallway was empty. The creature looked up at him again, and for a second, Alex swore he saw something human in its expression, fear, but also hope. He opened his mouth to speak, but a shadow moved at the far end of the corridor. It was tall, inhuman, and moving fast. The creature's eyes widened, and it pressed itself closer to Alex. "Go," it whispered. Alex's hands moved without thinking, spinning the wheels of his chair back toward the medical bay. He didn't know what was coming, but he could feel the danger pressing closer with every second. They reached the doorway, but Alex didn't enter. The medical bay suddenly felt too open, too exposed. Instead, he turned down a smaller side passage, one the nurses rarely used. The creature stayed at his side, its wings brushing against his arm as they moved. Every now and then, it glanced behind them, as if checking if they were being followed. Finally, they stopped in a small storage room filled with unused medical equipment. The creature hopped lightly onto a crate so it could be at eye level with Alex. "Safe for now," it said, its voice shaking. Alex took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. "You need to tell me what's going on," he said, his voice firmer than he felt. The creature's gaze softened, and it slowly reached forward, placing a clawed hand over Alex's bad ones. "Want me?" it said. "Why?" Alex asked, leaning closer. The creature hesitated, then gave a small shake of its head. "Because I can wake you," it whispered. Alex didn't understand, but before he could ask, the alarm blared louder than before, somewhere far off. A heavy thud echoed through the station, the sound of something breaking through. The creature's eyes locked with his again, and for a brief moment, Alex felt a strange heat in his legs. It was faint, just a tingling, but it was more feeling than he had known in months. The creature's voice in his head grew stronger, more urgent. "They come for both now," it said. Alex swallowed hard, realizing the truth. Whatever was hunting this small, dragon-like being was now hunting him too. The warning alarm echoed through the station like a heartbeat in the dark. Alex sat frozen in the small storage room, the red lights flashing against the walls. The little dragon-like creature stood on the crate, its wings half open, its eyes fixed on the door. It didn't move, but Alex could feel its tension, like a coil ready to spring. "What's coming?" Alex asked, his voice low. The creature's head turned slowly toward him, its gaze sharp. "They find me." It said, "They find you." The words were broken, but the meaning was clear enough to make Alex's stomach twist. A dull vibration rumbled under the floor. It was slow at first, then it grew, the kind of shaking you felt in your bones. Alex had felt something like this before on a battlefield. Just before enemy tanks arrived, it was the rhythm of something heavy, something powerful. Moving closer, the creature leaped from the crate and landed silently beside him. It pressed one warm claw against his leg. A soft hum filled his head, and the creature's voice came not through the air, but directly into his mind. "They come for power." "My power," it whispered. "They take me. They win." Alex's pulse quickened. "Win what?" he asked. The creature hesitated, as if searching for words it didn't have. "Everything," it finally said, and the weight in that single word made Alex's chest feel heavy. Outside the room, footsteps echoed. Not the quick steps of a human crew member, these were slower, heavier, like metal against metal. The creature's eyes flashed, and it moved to the corner, its body lowering into a crouch. It was ready to leap. But Alex wasn't ready for anything. He couldn't run. He couldn't fight. The thought made his hands tremble on the wheels of his chair. The sound of the steps stopped right outside. Alex held his breath. The door's shadow changed, and a thin beam of red light slid across the floor. Someone was scanning the room. The creature pressed itself tighter against the wall, trying to blend into the shadows. The light lingered for a moment, then moved away. The footsteps faded down the hall, but the tension in the air didn't leave. Alex exhaled slowly. "That was close," he whispered. The creature climbed back onto the crate and stared at him again. "Not close," it said. "Just start." The words sent a cold shiver down his spine. The alarms suddenly cut off, leaving only the faint hum of the station's systems. The silence felt wrong, like the air itself was waiting. Then the creature's head snapped toward the door. It tilted its head slightly, listening to something Alex couldn't hear. Its voice came again in his mind, urgent and sharp. "They inside." Alex's throat went dry. He had seen enemies break through defenses before, once they were inside. The fight was no longer about strategy, was about survival. "Where's security?" he asked. The creature shook its head. "Too slow. Too weak," it said. It stepped closer, its gaze locking with his. "You help me, I help you." Alex frowned. "Help me how?" The creature looked at his legs, then back into his eyes. It didn't answer with words. Instead, it touched his leg again. A warmth spread through his muscles, faint but real. It was enough for him to shift his foot slightly, something he hadn't been able to do in months. His breath caught. "What did you just—" The creature cut him off. "Not now. Later," it said, its tone firm, from somewhere deeper in the station. A loud crash echoed, metal tearing, voices shouting, and then a sharp, inhuman roar. Alex's heart pounded. The creature turned toward the sound, its tail lashing once behind it. "They find me soon," it whispered. "Why me?" Alex asked. The creature blinked slowly. "Because you hear me." Those words settled in Alex's mind like a stone dropping into water. He didn't understand them, but they felt important. Before he could think more, the lights flickered, and then dimmed. The corridor outside was now a shifting mix of red emergency glow and shadows. Every shadow felt like it was watching, waiting. The creature hopped down from the crate again and moved to the door. It didn't open it, just stood there, its head low, listening. Then it turned back to him. "We go," it said simply. "Go where?" Alex asked. The creature's answer was short. "Away from here." Alex hesitated, but deep inside, he knew staying here meant death. The creature moved to his side, its small claws gripping the arm of his chair. The warmth in his legs pulsed. Again, stronger this time. He didn't know how, but he could almost feel the weight in his feet. Whatever this creature was, it wasn't just a whisper in the dark anymore. It was something that could change him, and maybe change everything. The awakening Alex felt the warmth in his legs again, stronger this time. It wasn't just a faint tingle anymore. It was like something alive was moving through his muscles. Waking them up, the little dragon stayed by his side. One claw still resting lightly on his thigh, its eyes glowing brighter than before. The corridor outside the storage room was silent for now. But the silence felt heavy, as if danger was only waiting for the right moment to strike. Alex's fingers gripped the arms of his wheelchair. He wanted to believe this feeling in his legs was real, but he was afraid to hope. Hope had betrayed him before every time the doctors promised progress. Every time he told himself tomorrow would be different, but the creature's eyes didn't look like the eyes of someone lying. They were sharp, focused, and filled with something that almost felt like trust. "Stand," the creature whispered. Alex froze. He had tried before, many times, but all it ever gave him was pain and disappointment. "Stand," it said again, its voice firmer this time. Alex took a deep breath. Feeling his heart race in his chest, he pushed against the armrests, his arms trembling from effort. For a moment, his legs stayed still then. To his shock, one knee shifted, his breath caught. He pushed harder, and slowly, shakily, he rose. To his feet, it wasn't perfect, his balance wavered. His muscles felt weak, but he was standing. He could feel the cool floor through the soles of his feet for the first time in months. The creature's tail flicked once, almost like it was pleased. "Good," it whispered. "Now we move." Alex wanted to ask how long the effect would last, but the thought was cut short by a loud metallic clang from down the hall. It was followed by a slow scraping sound, like claws dragging across steel. The creature's head snapped toward the noise, its wings twitching in a nervous rhythm. "They hear," it said. Alex steadied himself, his body shaking from both the strain of standing and the rush of adrenaline. He had no weapon, no armor. Nothing but the clothes on his back and the strange little creature at his side. But somehow, he felt more ready than he had in a long time. They slipped out of the storage room and into the dimly lit corridor. The emergency lights flickered, casting the walls in shifting shadows. The floor panels hummed faintly under his steps. Sid felt strange to hear his own footsteps again. The creature stayed close, occasionally glancing back as if making sure nothing followed. Halfway down the hall, they stopped. Alex could hear voices now deep, guttural, not human. He recognized the tone even without knowing the language. It was the voice of hunters closing in on prey. The creature moved ahead, peeking around a corner. Then it returned quickly, its wings pressing tight against its body. "3," it whispered, "strong." Fast, Alex's mind raced, 3 enemies between them and safety. Running wasn't an option, not with his legs still weak. But standing still meant being trapped. The creature's voice came again in his head. "You fight." I guide. Before Alex could respond, a shadow loomed at the far end of the hall. It was tall, armored, its eyes glowing with a faint red light. Another figure appeared behind it. Then a third. They moved in unison, silent except for the sound of their metal boots on the floor. Alex's breath quickened. His instincts told him to run. But the creature's presence gave him something else, a strange calm in the middle of fear. The lead enemy took a slow step forward, tilting its head. As if studying him, then it spoke in a language he didn't understand, its voice deep and cold. The creature beside him hissed softly. "They want me." "They kill you," it said. Alex clenched his fists. The warmth in his legs surged again, and for a moment, he forgot about the weakness. He took one step forward, steady, but ready to fall. If the strength faded, the creature climbed onto his shoulder, its claws gripping his shirt for balance. Its voice in his mind was sharp and fast now. Left, low. Aim hard. The first enemy lunged. Alex moved before thinking, ducking low and swinging his arm toward the spot the creature had told him. His hand connected with the alien's chest, and a spark of pain shot up his arm, but the alien stumbled back, letting out a sharp hiss. Alex didn't have time to think about what had just happened. The other two rushed in, but each time, the creature's voice told him where to move, when to strike, and each time, Alex's body obeyed when the last one fell. Alex stood panting in the middle of the corridor. His legs trembled, his arms ached. But he was still on his feet. The creature slid back down to the floor, its glowing eyes watching him closely. "You can stand. Because I give you part of me," it said. Alex's stomach tightened at the words. "What does that mean?" he asked. The creature turned away, already moving down the hall. "Means you live." "If I live," it said quietly. Alex followed, realizing that whatever had just awakened inside him was tied to this strange little being, and if it died, the strength in his legs and maybe his life would die with it. The enemy arrives. The air in the corridor felt heavier now. Alex could hear the distant hum of the station's defenses, but it was weaker than it should be. The creature walked beside him, its small claws tapping lightly on the metal floor, its wings twitching every few seconds, somewhere deep in the station. A muffled explosion shook the walls, followed by the sound of metal groaning under strain. "They break doors," the creature said softly, its voice a low whisper in his head. Alex's stomach tightened. He had seen sieges before, and he knew once the enemy breached the outer gates, the battle inside was chaos. And from the way the creature was moving fast but low, its eyes scanning every shadow, Alex knew they were already here. They turned a corner and stopped ahead of them. A massive blast door stood halfway open, its locking mechanism sparking wildly. The light beyond flickered, casting sharp flashes into the hallway. And then they appeared, three figures stepping through the gap. They were tall, their bodies covered in dark segmented armor that seemed to drink in the light. Their helmets were smooth, with a single red visor glowing faintly. They moved without hesitation, scanning the corridor like predators. Alex felt his pulse quicken. The creature pressed closer to his leg, its tail wrapping briefly around his ankle. "They smell me," it whispered. Alex swallowed hard. "Then we should run," he muttered. The creature shook its head. "Too fast," it said. "We fight." Before Alex could argue, one of the armored figures raised a strange weapon. It hummed with a deep vibration, and the moment it fired, the air shimmered. The blast hit the wall beside Alex, leaving a molten scar in the metal. The heat made him flinch. But the creature was already pulling at his sleeve, urging him forward. "Left, now." The voice in his head commanded. Alex moved, his legs shaky but obeying. The first attacker stepped closer, swinging a blade that glowed faintly at the edges. Alex ducked, barely avoiding the strike, and swung his arm toward the enemy's midsection just as the creature told him. The hit connected, and the alien staggered back. Its armor dented. The other two moved in fast, one trying to flank, the other raising its weapon again. The creature's guidance came like lightning in his mind. Down, push, strike. Alex dropped to a crouch, sweeping his arm out to knock one of them off balance. Then he rose quickly, driving his shoulder into the second, sending it crashing against the wall. His breathing was heavy, and his legs trembled. But the warmth inside them burned stronger now. The creature leaped from the floor onto his shoulder, its claws gripping tight. He could feel its heartbeat against his neck, fast, sharp, alive. The third enemy charged, roaring in a low mechanical growl. Alex braced himself, his mind ready for the creature's next command. But instead of telling him where to hit, the creature whispered something different. Close eyes, Alex didn't understand. But he trusted it. He shut his eyes, and in the darkness behind them, he saw flashes, paths of movement, points of impact. Weak spots in the enemy's armor, he moved without thinking, striking exactly where the vision showed him when he opened his eyes again. The third attacker was on the ground, unmoving. The corridor went still. Steam rose from the damaged armor, the faint smell of burnt metal in the air. Alex stood over the fallen enemies, breathing hard. His legs felt like they might give out, but they still held him. The creature climbed down from his shoulder and landed beside him. "You learn fast," it said, its tone almost approving. Alex glanced at the bodies. "These won't be the last, will they?" he asked. The creature's expression hardened. "Many more," it replied. "They not stop until I gone." Another distant explosion shook the floor. This one stronger than before. The lights above flickered wildly, and the faint hum of the station's engines wavered. The creature turned toward the source of the sound, its wings folding tightly against its back. "They go for heart of station," it said. "The reactor." Alex guessed. The creature nodded slowly. "If they take it, all here." And Alex felt the weight of those words settle in his chest. He had been a soldier long enough to know what it meant when an enemy went for the power core. There would be no survivors. He looked at the little dragon. "You have a plan." It tilted its head. "Yes," it said, "but cost is high." Before he could ask what that meant, the faint sound of footsteps returned. This time, many more. The enemy wasn't retreating. They were spreading, filling the corridors like a flood. The creature stepped closer, its eyes locking with his. "You ready to pay price?" it asked. Alex didn't answer right away, but deep inside, he already knew there was no other choice. Asterisk. The price of power. The station shook again, harder this time. Alex stumbled. Catching himself on the wall, the creature stood still in the middle of the corridor. Its eyes closed, its wings curling tightly around its body. He could feel the warmth in his legs fading slightly, as if whatever strength it had given him was being pulled back. "What's happening?" Alex asked. The creature opened its eyes slowly, and there was something different in them, now a heavy, tired look. "I keep you strong," it said, "but every time I give away part of me." Alex's chest tightened. "You mean you're hurting yourself to help me?" The creature didn't answer, but the way it avoided his gaze told him everything. Another distant explosion rattled the floor, and a sharp alarm began to blare. "They near the heart of the station," the creature said, "if they take it." "Everyone gone." Alex clenched his fists. "Then we stop them," he said. The creature looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "But you must know," it said, "if I give you more power, I grow weaker, maybe not live." The words hit him like a punch. Alex wasn't used to people lore creatures risking themselves for him. In the battlefield, soldiers covered each other's backs, but that was survival instinct, not choice. This small, fragile-looking being was choosing to risk everything for him, and they had only just met before Alex could speak. Movement in the shadows caught his eye. 3 more enemies stepped into the hallway, their weapons raised. The creature's voice was sharp in his mind. "Decide now." Alex didn't hesitate. "Do it," he said. The creature leaped onto his shoulder, its claws digging in not to hurt, but to anchor itself. A burning heat surged through his body, stronger than before. It felt like fire in his veins. But instead of pain, it brought strength, clarity, and speed. The first enemy fired, but Alex was already moving. The creature's guidance was faster now. its whispers coming before the enemy even acted. Step left. Duck. Strike arm, he obeyed without question, knocking the weapon from the alien's hand and sending it skidding across the floor. The second attacker swung a blade, but Alex caught the strike with his forearm and drove his elbow into the alien's chest. Armor cracked under the impact. The third enemy tried to flank him, but the creature's tail brushed his neck. Silent warning. He spun, kicking out with a leg that only weeks ago had been lifeless. The impact sent the attacker crashing into the wall. When the last one fell, Alex stood panting, his body alive with energy. But then he felt the creature's grip on. His shoulder loosening, he quickly turned his head. Its eyes were dimmer now, its breathing shallow. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice urgent. The creature gave a small nod. "I hold on." "But not forever," it said quietly. They continued forward. The hallways now filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Emergency lights flashed red across the walls, and every few seconds, a deep rumble shook the station. The enemy was close to the reactor. Alex could feel it. They reached a wide chamber where multiple corridors met. Here. The signs of battle were everywhere, blaster burns on the walls, shattered panels, and the bodies of both humans and aliens. Alex's stomach twisted at the sight. The creature's voice in his mind was softer now, almost like a whisper fading in the wind. "They fight hard, but they lose," it said. "Not if we get there in time," Alex replied firmly. But in the back of his mind, he knew every step forward was taking more out of the creature. Halfway across the chamber, a group of enemies dropped down from an upper ledge surrounding them. Alex tightened his grip on the pipe he had picked up as a weapon. The creature's whispers came slower now, its energy clearly draining. Still, Alex moved, blocking, striking, dodging. But with each move, he felt the warmth in his legs flicker. One of the attackers managed to grab his arm. Pulling him backward, he struggled. But his strength was slipping. The creature suddenly let out a sound he had never heard from it before, a sharp, high-pitched cry. A wave of heat surged through him again, explosive and wild. He broke free from the alien's grip and struck with enough force to send it flying. The rest hesitated for a split second. And in that moment, Alex drove forward, taking them down one by one. When it was over, the creature collapsed onto his shoulder, barely able to hold its head up. "Why did you do that?" Alex asked, his voice breaking. The creature's reply was faint. "Because if you fall, they win." Alex swallowed hard. He knew now that reaching the reactor wasn't just about saving the station, was about making sure the creature's sacrifice wasn't for nothing. He adjusted his hold on it, supporting its small body with one hand. "Stay with me," he said. The creature's eyes fluttered but stayed open. "Until the end," it whispered. They moved on, deeper into the station, toward the place where everything would be decided. Alex's body burned with power, but he knew it was borrowed strength. And every second he used it was costing the creature a piece of itself. The price of power was steep, and soon he would have to face what that truly meant. The last whisper of the reactor chamber was ahead. Alex could feel the heat even before they reached the massive blast doors. The air vibrated with the deep hum of the reactor core, a sound that filled the bones and made every heartbeat feel heavier. The creature on his shoulder was trembling now, its breathing shallow, its eyes dim, almost there. Alex whispered. The creature gave the smallest nod. "They will be waiting," it said softly in his mind. Alex tightened his grip on the steel pipe in his hand. "Then we finish this," he replied. The blast doors were half destroyed, torn open by enemy weapons. Smoke drifted out, and through it came the sound of alien voices, low, sharp, filled with triumph. Alex stepped inside, and the sight froze him for just a moment. The massive reactor core stood in the center, its surface glowing with energy. Around it, armored enemies moved like shadows, working quickly to set charges. on the reactor support systems, and at the far end. A figure stood taller than the rest, its armor made of blackened bone, its eyes burning red behind a cracked visor. The leader, Alex, didn't need the creature to tell him, he could feel it. The leader turned slowly, and its gaze locked on him. It said something in its language, and the others stopped what they were doing. Forming a circle around the reactor, the creature's voice was faint in his mind. This one is strongest. Alex nodded slightly. Then he's mine. The leader raised a massive blade that shimmered with dangerous energy. Alex felt the warmth in his legs flare up again, but this time it was different. It was sharper, almost desperate. The creature was giving him everything it had left. He knew what that meant, and his chest tightened at the thought. The first clash came fast. The leader moved with surprising speed for its size, the blade swinging down in a deadly arc. Alex stepped aside just in time, the heat of the weapon brushing against his face. He countered with a strike to the leader's side, but the armor absorbed most of the impact. The creature's voice cut through the noise. Lower, now. Alex ducked, swinging his pipe into the back of the leader's leg. The alien staggered, but it didn't fall. They moved around the chamber, trading blows. Each strike Alex landed came from the creature's guidance, each dodge timed perfectly. But every move drained the little being more. He could feel its body growing weaker against his neck, its claws barely holding on. The leader roared and swung again, this time catching Alex across the side. Pain shot through him, but he stayed. On his feet, he pushed forward, driving the enemy back toward the edge of the reactor platform. The creature's whispers were slower now, almost. And the leader lunged, its blade aimed for Alex's chest at the last second. The creature's voice filled his head with one word, sharp and final. Now, Alex shifted his weight, sidestepping the strike and driving his weapon upward. With all his strength, the pipe struck the leader's exposed neck joint. Piercing through, the alien let out a choked roar, its body jerking before it fell to the ground. The circle of enemies broke, some rushing to attack, others retreating. Alex didn't give them the chance. He charged forward, his movement still fueled by the last of the creature's strength. One by one, the attackers fell, until the chamber was silent except for the hum of the reactor. Alex stood there, breathing hard, his hands shaking. Then he realized the warmth in his legs was fading. He reached for the creature on his shoulder, lifting it gently into his hands. Its eyes were half closed, its breathing slow. No, Alex whispered. The creature gave a faint smile, if it could be called that. You can stand now. Because of me, it said in his mind, the voice softer than ever. Alex's throat tightened. You saved me, he said. The creature blinked slowly. And you saved them, it replied. Its eyes closed, and for a moment, Alex thought it was gone. But then, one last whisper reached his mind. Live. For both of us, the warmth faded completely, but his legs still held him. The gift it had given him remained. Alex stood there for a long moment, holding the small, still form in his hands. The hum of the reactor filling the silence, finally. He turned toward the blast doors. The station was safe. The enemy was gone. But the cost had been high. He walked out into the corridor, his steps steady. The creature was gone. But its voice would stay with him forever, and every step he took from that day on would be a promise, one he intended to keep.